grow up with the NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Well, hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of This Week in Geeks TurdOrTreasure review show. We are off of the main show this week, mostly because Birdman had some prior commitments. I did as well. It also happens to be a long weekend in the States for those of our friends and listeners down there that are celebrating. You know, we hope you have a good time. Drink responsibly, all that fun, stupid stuff. But yeah, because it's a long weekend and because of all that, there hasn't been as much news or even weird news, well, I guess a lot of the regular news is kind of weird news now, but because of that, we've decided not to put out a regular show, but we did have a bunch of reviews ready to go as we're inching closer and closer to our Summer Game Fest coverage, as well as the Nintendo Switch 2 launch, which as of this recording, we can confirm that at least across Canada, that pretty much every EB Games, which, yes, that's right, it's been rebranded from GameStop back to EB Games, is doing midnight launches. We are going to try to get out to ours, and I know we've secured, well, I say secured, we aren't really sure if consoles are secured, even if they're pre-ordered, until you have them in hand, right? With the way the world works right now. So we're not actually saying we have it in hand until we actually have it in hand. So we should be trying to go out for the midnight launch. So that would be, Wednesday night of, not this week, next week, going out for a midnight release. I know my brother wants to do it, and he has said, he's never been to a midnight release. He's, how old is he now? 32? So when we hadn't really done midnight releases in Canada since, I don't think there was midnight releases, maybe, but not on a like national scale. I don't even know if the Switch 1 had it. I know for sure it was PS4 had it, and so did Xbox One. But at that point, we're going back like, what is that, 13 years? So he was a bit young at that point, to have been going to do anything like that. So I don't think he did. And I worked back in the day, midnight releases. Did I do 2 of them? I want to say I didn't do a midnight release. I stuck around for one. When I worked at Future Shop as a technician, I was the guy who would normally be closing up shop. It would be me, like, 1 or 2 sales guys, a customer service rep, and there would be like the store manager, and I would usually be the guy on the closing shift. So like I was done at 10, but I didn't get out of there till like 10:30 at night. And I think there was a major game release. It was probably one of the Halos or something. I don't remember exactly, but they were opening at midnight, and I remember somebody told me, instead of me taking the bus home, which would get me home, around 11:30 at night, 11:30, nearly 12, if I was doing a closing shift, depending. They're like, hey, if you want to stick around, grab a coffee or whatever, stick around, I'll give you a ride home. We're just opening, you'll be home a little later, but you won't have to take the bus. And I went, okay. So I remember sticking around. And I remember there being lineups of people, to come in. And at that point, they were just selling the one game. You couldn't buy anything else. You could buy the game. And I think they would let you buy like an accessory, or you could buy like, I think it was probably like Xbox Live, digital codes, that sort of stuff. And that was it. You weren't allowed to really shop for anything else at that point. And I know that I worked 1, maybe 2 midnight launches when I was working I worked for like 7 months at 7 or 8 months at the EB Games around the corner from there back in 2009 to 2010. So that was still a very common thing for midnight launches. So this will be interesting. And because we've pre-ordered stuff, the hope is you get there. Doesn't matter the size of the line, because you pre-ordered stuff, you should be getting your console. They can't sell it out from under you. We say in theory. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're going to have a bunch of stuff going on then. So because of that, we've got a bunch of other, games and things that we want to talk about review-wise ahead of time. So we will hopefully have a regular show this coming week, the week leading into Summer Game Fest week and Nintendo release week. But we definitely won't have one the week of. It might be a week or two before we have a regular show. So we'll probably have some more review stuff scattered throughout. As it stands right here, Birdman is getting me a few reviews that he would normally have out for the show. I'll splice them in. I don't know which ones he has per se right now, but I do have a few for myself. I'll mention that there's one that I was going to talk about, and we probably will if hopefully things are here next week, but I'll mention it now, that Fujifilm, who their Print Life service, where I talked about for Mother's Day, they did send another promo code for me to check out and check out some of their new products that they had, which was related to like the NHL playoffs and your favorite NHL teams, and they have like themed products that you can then put your pictures on. I've ordered a few different things since the code provided allowed me to do that, and I'm just waiting on them to arrive. I'm mentioning them now. And I'm going to make sure that I let you know. I'll put in the show description the link to Print Life so what you can check out. Because with the Canada Post strike happening, I don't know if my stuff has shipped. I don't know if the strike is going to be... Right now, it's just for overtime. But we don't know if they're going to rolling blackout delivery areas or if they're going to accept things to shipment, if things are stuck in the mail. We're sort of like where we were 6 months ago, where we really don't know what's going to come unless it's coming through a courier. So because of that, normally I would wait to be like, hey, check it out. When the stuff does arrive, I'll make sure that I post a picture and show off, because I made some silly stuff that goes with it. It's pretty cute and pretty funny, so you might like it. And I made one product for Birdman himself. So we'll see when it arrives. I'll show that off. But just in case, because it's a little more timely when it comes to the promotions they've got going on, and thinking ahead of time, if you want to start thinking of maybe things for Father's Day, I'll put a link in the description here now ahead of time. Normally we don't do that unless we've actually got product in hand, but we've reviewed stuff from them before. It's just a matter of seeing what the quality is like of these new products that are branded. So I'll put it in there. We'll see how it goes. Beyond that, I will have a few reviews here, individual reviews, but I have a couple of titles for PC that I want to do first impressions of and mention here, simply because they're probably not going to get regular full-blown release reviews from us, and that is Midnight Walk. I played that both on PC and on console, and I can say that it works pretty much just the same on both. It is very interesting. That is the title. You probably saw trailers for it a little while ago, actually. And it's made to look, it's like a first-person game. The world is completely dark. You've got like, it's almost like claymation-y look to it. And you're Pot Boy. And you're trying to bring your flame to the world and light things up. And it's horribly scary for someone like me. There's lots of secrets and stuff to find in the world. I can say that on PlayStation, it plays pretty darn well. I had no issues with it. Visually, it looks a little better on PC, but obviously, PC, you can really dial in your settings. It is also available with a VR support. I don't have a VR device that would work with it, so I couldn't test that part out. That's why we're not doing a full crazy review, but it's getting good reviews around the board from everybody else, and I would say that it is one of the most visually striking games of the last, quite some time. I love when they try something completely new like this, and I do hope that people try it out and doesn't, slip too far under your radar. And I want to see more from the studio. So yeah, a review code was provided to us for each platform, for PlayStation and for Windows. I think you're going to be pretty happy with either or. It's not overly demanding on PC, but if you're concerned about it, it's something, as long as you got a PS5, you can play with no issues whatsoever. And the other title that I want to talk about is Scar-Led Salvation. That is a new title from CompileHeart, which sometimes sets off alarm bells when it comes to releases, because they've got not the best track record because they're mostly known for RPGs, sort of here in the West. But Idea Factory International published it. It's one of the few that they've done where it has some English in it as well. It's not just a pure text translation. Visually, it's one of the better games they have, and it's a different style than what they're used to. It is a third-person shooter. Weirdly enough, think of like an anime version of Returnal. Like, I mean, it's weird to say that, but basically the premise is you control Willow Martin, which is you're an amnesiac soldier, and you got to escape from an unfamiliar place with hostile mechanical beings. Every level is like procedurally generated, and if you die, you lose all of your equipment and start over from the beginning. So it is very much like Returnal. It's a little easier, at least in my books. I'm not going to probably be able to beat it, which is why I'm not doing a full-fledged review for it. But my first impressions are that it is probably one of the more interesting and I would say better titles that have been released from CompileHeart in quite some time. I'm happy to see Idea Factory International doing something different. And I noticed that on their slate of releases for 2025, it's like the first time in 10 years that they've had like truly interesting different things that aren't just rehashes or reprints of the same games over and over again. So I'm happy to see that. It is coming out on... I played it on PC, by the way. It's coming out on PC, PS4, PS5, May 29th, so later on this week. I've had it for a little while to test out. It's coming out later on this year on Xbox Series X and S as well. So worth checking out if you liked that sort of style of what I described, like the Returnal style of game, but with more of an anime touch. And that's sort of I'd say it's good. It's worth it, and which is, to be honest, not what you can always say is a guarantee with CompileHeart games, but this is one of the better ones for sure. And that's pretty much it for like the small indie previews that I wanted to talk about. And I'll have a few more full-fledged reviews in this show. As it stands, I'll be sort of intersplicing mine and Birdman's together. I'll come back at the end with an update on our programming, as we've got things a little more solidified over the next couple of weeks.
This is about a movie about a couple of killers. Harry Callahan. And a homicidal maniac. The one with the badge is Harry.
Halt! Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk to you about something unexpectedly cool that I got from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. I'm talking about the 4K Ultra HD with a digital code of Dirty Harry from Clint Eastwood, the original vigilante cop, or at least as far as I know. Like, I'm talking like pre-Charles Bronson Death Wish. Again, as far as I remember, but this was the first movie I really remember watching with my grandmother growing up. She was a huge Clint Eastwood fan. This is where I would really wonder if my fascination with the 44 Magnum started, and by extension, my fascination with a lot of firearms in movies going forward. That probably explains quite a bit. To explain the story of Dirty Harry, vigilante cop, hunting down a guy who's a serial killer, the guy from Star Trek DS9, who's but a humble tailor. Andrew Robinson, fantastic performance. Don't need to tell you a whole lot about the movie because it is literally baked into cinema. When you watch a lot of pop culture, anywhere from the 70s all the way to now, if you think you haven't seen Dirty Harry, trust me, you've seen Dirty Harry. A lot of the special features on this, which there are a lot. There are 2 very long documentaries. There's a ton of featurettes. While some of them are anywhere between like 5 minutes to about 10 or so, they may seem short, but there's a surprising amount of detail put into them, which is something you don't see a lot of short featurettes do. You don't see them give you the depth of the topic you want or necessarily the range of experts that you want. This is sort of going in the right direction. I'd rather have a lot of good experts that can say a lot in a short amount of time than having just a few experts that don't say a lot and you get it stretched out to like 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, it's cool to have behind the scenes stuff, but give me something that I can chew on. And this disc from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment is most certainly a step in the right direction. Clint Eastwood is a guy I actually didn't know a whole lot about here, and just finding out where he came from, the fact that he's a self-taught piano player, I had no idea about. He has a fascination with blues music, which is kind of cool. And just knowing that he's so much more than, you know, the outlaw Josie Wales, which will be coming to the show very soon. He's more than the man with no name. He's more than just the guy who started out on Rawhide. He's more than even Harry Callahan. It's so fascinating to learn about this director and actor that I literally knew nothing about. I remember outside of seeing this, the next time he would come into the consciousness, at least for me, would be The Bridges of Madison County and then Unforgiven in the 90s, where he won Best Picture and Best Director along with two other awards that year. To talk about the physical disc itself, the picture looks fantastic. There's actually a really cool featurette on this disc that talks about the cinematography of Dirty Harry, and you never realize, or at least I never realized, how interesting this movie looks. Like, it's a lot of like stark contrast, cool shots, as they describe it as film noir to make San Francisco a character in the movie, and they're not wrong. I'm actually super impressed by how cool this movie is shot, and I think this director of cinematography went on to do a bunch of really fantastic stuff. That's not my area of expertise. That's more David Denoyer from Do You Even Movie. I should really ask those guys to cover this movie when I get the chance. But really, this kind of sets the prototype for a lot of the stuff you would start to see later on in the 1970s and 80s. They actually mentioned in one of the special features, without Harry Callahan, you don't get Murtaugh and Riggs from Lethal Weapon. You don't get these cop characters that play by their own rules. You probably don't even get the Simpsons meme of the German guy screaming Mendoza without stuff like this. It's kind of amazing how much the Dirty Harry thing has really come into infiltrating every area of pop culture, and we just kind of know this movie by osmosis. Ultimately, this movie is a classic for a reason. It looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic in my approximation. And if you've ever wanted to know more about Clint Eastwood, this kid who came from the Depression era and how much his career trajectory has really changed over the course of like 50 years or more, then this is really something you should be adding to your collection. I do have a couple more of the 4Ks featuring Clint Eastwood to be reviewing as we lead up to Father's Day, but ultimately, this is going to make your day. You're going to have to ask yourself one question. Do you feel lucky, punk?
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Our friends at 505 Games have sent us a review copy of Mercury Steam's new game, Blades of Fire. I had a chance to check this out on PlayStation 5, and I can say it's actually pretty good. You've heard of Mercury Steam before. It's likely because of some of their work that they did. You know, if you're more of an old school gamer like me, you'll know some of the Castlevania Lords of Shadow games. But if you're more of a more recent gamer, you probably know them from working on some of the Metroid games. Was it the Metroid Fusion remake, or was it Metroid 2 remake that they did? That's right, as well as Metroid Dread being the big title of the last little bit, where people felt that they went and upgraded themselves into being more of a big boy studio in the quality of their releases. And this is, a new property altogether. And, it's a third-person action-adventure game. You control a character named Arandalira. You have a giant ancient hammer, and you forge various weapons. There is an interconnected world, a bunch of different paths, hidden places you can get to. You can choose how to place and position your weapons when fighting, from left and right. It's sort of like a throwback in a style to a style of game that you don't see quite as often anymore, if that makes any sense. There is things to consider, like durability of weapons. As far as how the game plays, I would say the performance is pretty good, at least from my experience. The controls seem to be pretty on par with being, well tuned. Visually, it's got a good visual style. It's not like gonna blow your socks off, but it is a step above a lot of other titles at around, I would say, this budget. If there's any complaint I could say about it that maybe detracts, is that the level design is a little bit obtuse, and there is some wild difficulty spikes here and there. And that is something that, eventually more people playing it, they're probably going to iron out. There'll be patches to it, hopefully, because if not, it feels a little undone when it comes to maybe some of the quality of life stuff that they could have included with it. But as it stands, it is on the more difficult side because of the unpredictability of the difficulty spikes and some of the level design. But if that's the kind of game that you like, then this is going to definitely be for you, for sure. It is well presented. Again, some tweaking and some QA could have been done for the difficulty and maybe some of the level design, but that's nitpicking. Beyond that, I still think it's a fun and good experience, and it's probably worth checking out. It's available on other platforms as well, but I only had a chance to check it out on PlayStation, so you'll have to, take what I say with a grain of salt if you're playing on other platforms, but I do think it's worth your time.
Hi, this is Michelle, guest contributor for This Week in Geek. August 2019 saw the release of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, a game system that departed from some of the norms seen on tabletop RPGs. Move, action, bonus action, replaced with a 3-action economy. Opposed checks? Dead. Character min-maxing, replaced with system balance. The 3-action economy was probably one of the biggest changes to get used to with the release of Pathfinder 2e. After years of carefully calculating when and how to move with that single bit of space, the 3-action economy tossed some of that care completely out the window and offered choice in how to play the game that wasn't there before. If you felt you needed to move twice to get to the perfect spot to attack, you could do that. You could stride twice and attack once. Or, if those years of careful planning let you figure out how to get to that perfect spot in one move, you could now attack twice, starting at level 1. Previously, many had to wait until level 5 to attack multiple times. Remember what I said about balance before? It was carefully observed when the 3-action economy was put into place. For each extra attack used on your turn, you still take that -5 penalty. That didn't go away. You just have the option of having it right from the get-go instead of waiting for your basic attack bonus to be high enough that a -5 kept your basic attack bonus in the positives. The 3-action economy hasn't hindered spellcasting. Many spells take 2 actions, allowing a caster to still move and cast each round. With your actions no longer defined for you, there's a level of choice not known to combat before. Checks were also given a simplification treatment with the release of 2e. Opposed checks are gone. No more rolls against other players or monsters to see if that ability worked. All checks are now against a difficulty class. If you're trying to sneak past that monster, you roll a stealth check against the monster's perception DC. Trying to tumble through an enemy square? You roll your acrobatics against the enemy's reflex DC. Pathfinder used to be referred to as Mathfinder given the complexity and equations you deal with in calculating all your bonuses. That is no longer the case. The math required in Pathfinder 2e has been greatly simplified. Every level is 1,000 experience points. Calculating the difficulty of a battle from trivial to deadly is as easy as picking out ice cream flavors. While combat difficulty is still somewhat art over science, from the game mastering perspective, it's still much easier compared to Pathfinder 1e or D&D 5e. Regardless of your level, the math doesn't change. Though just over 3 years of having Pathfinder 2nd Edition, we got some turbulence. For Christmas of 2022, Hasbro WotC gave us an FAQ about updates to the Open Gaming License, better known as the OGL. Shortly following the start of 2023, we got to see why, with the proposed changes for an OGL 1.1. I know. This is a review of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because it's part of the reason why there's a Pathfinder 2nd Edition remastered, as shortly after the proposed OGL 1.1 was shown off, unintentionally, Paizo announced the Open RPG Creative, or ORC license. And let's be clear, Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remastered is not a new edition of Pathfinder. It's not a 2.5. It's more of a 2.1, released in November of 2023. While Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remastered gave us some much-needed clarification on rules first introduced in the 2nd edition, most of the changes were in terminology used in the game. With the Remastered being released under the ORC license instead of the OGL, many of the names used for spells, feats, and even languages had to change. No longer will your fighter take an attack of opportunity, but a reactive strike against an unwary foe. No longer will your rogue find their opponent flat-footed, but off guard. And no longer will your wizard study spell schools, but at an arcane school with a specific curriculum. Though there were also departures from classic well-known systems used in the game from the beginning, like alignment. Instead of choosing your preferred balance between good and evil, lawful and chaotic, you now have edicts and anathema as your primary system. I'm certain there are a few game masters that will be glad their players can no longer say, "I'm not evil, I'm chaotic neutral," and the debate of alignment in the remastered edition can be put to bed. Edicts and anathema existed in the 2nd edition, though more as examples. Being a cleric and doing something anathema to your faith had consequences, and you had to keep your alignment within one step of the alignment of your chosen deity. Without alignment in the game, edicts and anathema dictate accepted and unacceptable behaviors for any faith-following class. The faithful in the game also have access to new traits, holy and unholy. If your character can be sanctified, they can or must choose to be holy or unholy depending on the deity they worship. Another bit of removed mechanics, ability scores. Pathfinder 2nd Edition released with the ability boost and ability flaw system being the norm, over rolling ability scores. It did keep rolling ability scores in an alternative method. In the remastered, the ability score itself was removed in favor of using ability boosts and ability flaws on the ability modifier directly. The main rules have not changed. Once you get a +4 on an ability modifier, which would have been an 18 under 2nd edition, you still have partial boosts. So in order to get a +5 on an ability modifier, it must be boosted twice, representing the jump from 19 then 20 on the no longer used ability score. Introduced with the remastered version are new damage types as well: Void, Vitality, Force, and Spirit damage. I'm sure you can guess that Void is the negatively charged damage that is used against the living, and Vitality is the positively charged damage used against the undead. Force and Spirit damage are newer. Force damage is powerful and pure magical energy, and Spirit damage affects the spiritual essence of a creature. While it won't work on constructs or other soulless creatures, it will certainly work on someone being possessed, giving a way to harm the possessor without harming the possessed. While it may seem like there's been a whirlwind adventure changes from a short review, these are changes that have happened over a number of years. New players to the Pathfinder system would find it easier to navigate given the balanced approach and simplifications made.
Alex, the producer here, and I want to talk about another product that we were sent from Turtle Beach. As I mentioned the last couple of weeks, we received a few items for their spring / into early summer releases, all Nintendo Switch themed, sort of like a bit of a last hurrah for what's coming for the Switch, but things that can also be used on the Switch 2 because of, in this case, the analog nature of it. And that is, we've got another headset. This is the Lite Fit Nintendo Switch Edition. I received the purple one, which, I think they have it listed as Ghost Purple as their, what they are calling their purple. To me, it looks like a slightly darker version of the, the Atomic Purple, the classic, Game Boy / N64 era color. A little off, different, it's got obviously a different color shade, for copyright and trademark reasons, but that's what it's meant to evoke. And it does quite a good job of doing that. We've talked previously about the Recon headset. This is a little bit different than that, a little different aesthetic to it. Similar sort of in terms of build quality, I would say maybe 40 millimeter drivers. They are jersey knit foam cushioning ear cushions, they call it. That means pretty standard ear cushions is what I'm saying. Nothing premium or crazy fancy on here, but there's a reason for that. It has a $28 MSRP in the States. I think in Canada, you're looking at about 40. It's going to depend on multiple factors when it comes to retailers, whatever the current import rate is, all that sort of stuff. You know the news that's going on. So, but that's the MSRP is on it about $28 US, about probably 40 Canadian. And at that price point, you're entering what I would say to be, it's considered entry level, but you're getting a better quality than what you get from a lot of other companies. And it's got a good warranty as well as just good build quality overall, being from, formerly this would have been like a PDP product, but now that they're all one happy family, it is Turtle Beach. It is bright in color, and it is all plastic build, but doesn't have like a brittle or cheap plastic feel. It's a good quality feel. The microphone is it's one of them bidirectional ones, and it does flip down and flip up. So if you flip it up, it'll mute it automatically, flip down to talk. No other button presses or anything necessary for that, which is good. It is a wired headset. That's why it's universal. That's why I'm saying it'll work on pretty much anything, even though it is something that is marketed, with Switch branding on it. It's officially licensed. You pop it in the top of the Switch in handheld mode or in tabletop mode. If you're playing on, if you want to play it on a device that has like a tablet or something that still has a headphone jack, you can do that. Or, in my case, I tried it out. I popped it in my Xbox controller, and then I popped it in my PlayStation 5 controller, and it works just like any other headset that way. It's just pretty good quality overall. It's just, maybe it's a taboo for you to mix and match something that's branded for Nintendo, but using it on Sony, maybe you're hexing me out. But no, it works just fine. As far as compatibility, if you're wondering, hey, in a couple of weeks the Nintendo Switch 2 is out. It's not officially licensed for it. It's not official, no company is going to say it is just yet until unless they've worked out a specific branding agreement. But I'm telling you right now, because it's a wired one, and because the Switch 2 has the headphone jack on it, anything with a headphone jack is going to work. As well as the Switch 2 is having their Pro controllers with a headphone jack. They've entered the modern era that Xbox and PlayStation have had for better part of 20 years. Because of that, you'll be able to use it there. So while it won't be branded specifically for Switch 2, just know that it's going to work that way. And just to save everybody, and cover my ass, when we get the Switch 2 in what, little under 2 weeks time, I will plug in the headset into the top of it in handheld mode, and I'll plug it into my Pro controller for it. And when we do our programming coverage, we're talking about compatibility, I will mention, yes, does this headset work? Yes. I'm telling you now, yeah, but I will make sure, and if it doesn't, I will correct myself and mention it. But I can't foresee how there's a possibility of it not working. But as it stands, it looks nice. They're saying compatibility for it, officially a Switch Lite, and Switch OLED, but it will work with anything. That's the universality of having a wired connection that way. As long as it has a wired jack and it is, made for headsets, it's got the extra pole on there to have the microphone, it'll work. If you want to plug it into something that doesn't have a headset support with the microphone, just like a headphone jack, it'll still work as headphones that way. The driver frequency response is, 20 hertz and up, which is pretty standard for something in that price range. As far as the weight on them, it's about half a pound. They are over-ear ones, so your ears will fit sort of inside the cups, and that's perfectly fine. It actually helps with some noise isolation a little better. Pretty standard stuff. Good build quality, good price point, more importantly in today's day and age, and pretty much universal compatibility. As long as your device has a headphone or headset jack on it, then you're good to go. I would say color-wise, there's other options. There is a black and white one and a blue and red one, sort of match like the traditional Joy-Con look or the OLED look. I like the purple. I think the purple makes me feel like I'm 11 years old again, playing on the N64 or playing on my Game Boy Color. Because, you know, of course, I like pretty much everybody that had a Game Boy Color had that purple one. And I'm almost tempted to go somewhere and check out what the prices are. Hopefully, it's going to be crazy. Check out what the price on, a Game Boy Color is, an atomic purple one, and just pair them up because it'll look so cool. But as it stands, it's a solid headset that, you know, if you're on the fence and you're unsure because you're like, oh, well, Switch 2 is coming and this is a Switch 1 device, it'll work with the Switch 2. But it'll work with basically any Switch. It's just because the Switch 2 isn't out yet, and because the licensing branding, you can only have so much on it, and it is branded with, you know, Switch and certified for the Switch. Just know down the line, it'll work. And again, I will come back and say, oh, I was wrong if it doesn't. So that's all I got to say on it. Check it for it in stores. I know in Canada, I've seen it on Amazon. That's where I saw the price point at about $40. But in the States, you'll be able to find it, you know, wherever you find your gaming accessories. If you're unsure, you can go to TurdOrTreasure's website and check out from there. It'll run you, they're saying, you know, $28 US. It has an MSRP of what appears to be 20 euros or 25 British pounds sterling. In Canada, the documentation didn't have particular MSRP, but generally you can go by whatever Amazon is asking, and I believe that they were at least pre-orderable on Amazon for about 40 Canadian, which sounds about right based on exchange rate right now. So keep your eyes out. I think they're worth it if you're looking for a good headset.
Those magnificent bastards! Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's going to do it for the show this week. What do we have coming up? Well, as I mentioned, we do have a fair bit of planning, solidifying when it comes to Summer Game Fest stuff. I believe Jeff has finally started announcing what the other shows are that are happening around it. We can see right now, I'm just pulling it up here to see if he's put it on his official website, or if I have to pull up like the IGN schedule. He still doesn't have the rest of them on there. So we'll pull it up here. But in the meantime, I will mention that as far as our regular programming, we aren't doing a regular show the week, like the Monday of Summer Game Fest weekend, but we should, in this week coming up, have a regular show, as long as the news provides enough for us to talk about. If not, we'll do another review show. But as it stands, what we have coming up for programming that I'm going to be scheduling is I can give you sort of a sneak peek on some of the content that we've got uploaded. Some of it's dated, so I won't mention what they are, but some of the stuff is, quote unquote evergreen. We're going to put out, over the next several weeks. One of them is we have a Future Imperfect on RoboCop 87 and 2014 versions. We have a loose cannon on 90s media icons. We've also got a Twig Random Access Memories on movies to get to know us. We have a Future Imperfect on Total Recall 1990, as well as the 2012 remake. We also have Random Access Memories on pitching movie ideas as double features. We also have a loose cannon on Weird Al. We have a loose cannon on 90s media icons. We have, that's the one I mentioned earlier. That's right. So we've got that. And a few others that we're actually in the process of recording. And then as far as like Summer Game Fest stuff, we will be doing a few Summer Game Fest shows. And as far as the other showcases, some of them popping up, I'm sort of, collecting them to watch, and I'm going to do highlights of them similar to what we did in past years, as well as we're going to be discussing with Ken and probably Birdman on some of these as well in sections. So like we'll do like day 1, day 2, day 3, that sort of stuff. As it stands right now, what just finished was the Warhammer Skulls showcase a couple of days ago, and the 6-1 Indie showcase. I'm going to be watching those, clipping out highlights if there's any for us. There's one for Tiny Build on May 27th, so we'll include that with whenever we cover the other two there. On the 29th is the Thinky Direct, the Evercade Showcase Volume 4, and the Indie Quest. I think, unless something else is announced, we're going to bundle the stuff from the 22nd, 27th, and 29th into one discussion. So I'll probably grab Ken to pop on for that for maybe like a half hour or so to sort of go over it. And it's all going to depend, again, on how much was announced that I think would be great for everybody to talk about. But beyond that, for June 6th, which is Summer Game Fest, we are going to be talking about the Accessibility Summer Showcase, which is happening that day. Same with Summer Game Fest and Day of the Devs. There might be something else that day, but not usually. So we'll cover that either that night or the following day, probably. On the 7th is the Wholesome Direct and the Future Games Show. There's usually one or two more that pop up on that day. So anything else that pops up then we'll discuss. And then June 8th is the Sunday, which is the Xbox Game Showcase, Outer Worlds 2 Direct, and the PC Gaming Show. No word yet on Devolver. And usually they're either on the day with Summer Game Fest or they'll be after the Xbox one. We will see. And there's also rumors of Sony and Nintendo doing something around them. We'll figure that out. And sometime after the Xbox one, and that if there isn't a Nintendo one in the following week, like, sometime maybe, I don't know, on like the week of the 9th through the 13th or something, if there's nothing there, we will, in lieu of the regular show, like I said, we will do a prototype podcast covering Summer Game Fest, all of that stuff, where we see the games moving in the future and what we hope to see. Because at the same time, a day before Summer Game Fest is the Nintendo Switch 2 release. Trying to figure out programming for that. If everything goes along smoothly and we're able to pick up our consoles for the midnight release, I will do a couple posts at the midnight release. I might do like a live video, like a little quick thing, showcasing, hey, make a clip or two. Here we are waiting for it, that sort of stuff. And then when I get it home at midnight or just shortly after midnight, again, fingers crossed, everything works. I will set up a little table desk here in the living room. I'll set up my phone or a camera, record it, do a little quick unboxing for it, throw that up on our YouTube and our social channels, and then as long as I got everything worked out, I'll hook it up and I will do an initial system startup and test by plugging it into our capture card and streaming it online and seeing how everything works that way. I'll make sure that I've got a decent enough connection. It's funny, I'll probably end up using Wi-Fi on the PC to stream it because I'll want to have a dedicated Ethernet connection. I only have one in the one section here plugged into the Switch 2 to do any downloads and that. And we'll see how it goes. And probably play like an hour, 2 hours of play, depending on how it goes, of just like checking it out, downloading, getting everything going. I will... Maybe not, because I'm going to have to set up my account and that, and I don't want to put that online. I'm not going to want to blur it and all that in real time. But regardless, I'll hook it up and maybe I'll capture some footage at least. And yeah, I might not do it live. I'll probably capture some footage so I can edit anything out that I need to edit out. And then we'll throw that up shortly before I go to bed, and that'll be set up to do some live streaming and gameplay, and we can test out how some of the stuff works and play some multiplayer games with the rest of the Twig crew at some point over the next few weeks. But it's going to be a very busy next couple of weeks, so there's that. We also, as far as programming, have more Earth vs. Soups that I've got to edit and put up. I haven't got the exact order yet, but it should be episode 258 coming soon. And a few other stuff. So there's actually plenty going on. It's just the regular main show is sort of going to be on and off the schedule until probably, the second or third week of June, once we know what's going on. And then we take our hiatus come July 1st from the the regular show, and it'll just be review shows until the beginning of September. But there's still plenty of stuff that we're recording in between to come out. It's just news gets a little slower usually in the summer, and the news that does come out tends to be somewhat Comic-Con related, which we can talk about if we need to on one of the other programs, and very much more game heavy, so that's why there's going to be more prototypes. So there will be prototypes in the summer on any other major showcases that Nintendo or Sony have, as well as stuff leading into Gamescom and then Tokyo Game Show, and we're off to the races for the fall and winter. But yeah, that's going to do it for us right here this week. We will be back with more shows, at least an Earth versus Soup, and maybe another one of our shows from Loose Cannon or Future Imperfect this week, followed by what should be a regular show next week, depending on what the news cycle is. And then it's off to the races with all of the busy Nintendo and gaming in general podcasts that we're going to be having out, half a dozen or more over the next 2 weeks. So that's going to do it. Hope you guys have a good time on this weekend. Hope you, if you're not in the States and you're in Canada or anywhere else listening, just hope you're having a good time in general. And we'll see you here next time, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.